everyone. Welcome to HOA Fight Club. Today I'm going to discuss the joining a corporation and how it affects our votes. I'm seeing this conversation going on, and I've been asked a few times how one person, if they own a majority of the properties or a huge percentage of the properties, how should their vote count? Should that person only get one vote, and that kind of discussion? So when you join an HOA, you are not really you're buying property, but you're buying property that's also got restrictions by this corporation. So the corporation demands that you follow the declaration and the bylaws. Well, the corporation is ran under corporate law. So when you purchase a deed or a title, that is one vote in that corporation. So if you take the one vote and you times I buy 50 properties, that should equal 50 votes of the properties. Now, it shouldn't matter whose name is on the deed for the corporation to be ran. It depends on how many deeds you own. So I know that when you allow ownership to be over 51%, so if you allow it in your governing documents that anybody can buy a deed and they can buy as many deeds or subdivide into as many deeds as is allowed by law, by the governing laws of the state, so their legal parcels, that gives them the right to a vote for each one of those deeds that they have. And I do have clients right now that are in that battle of who is the majority. Well, the majority isn't determined by a property manager or an attorney or even the state. The majority is determined by how many lots you own. So if you own 50 lots out of the 80 lots that are there, you own the majority of that corporation, and each one of those lots votes count. So that is how corporate law is ran. Robert's rules, majority rules always. So that's the corporate laws. Now, I understand that owners in that corporation do not want one person making all the decisions. So I have seen governing documents that limit ownership to 10%. In my association, that's what it was. You can only own 10% of the property as one owner. So because they understand the corporate vote. So the declarant did this because the declarant owns all the property at the beginning. So the majority rules. Once that declarant has given away or sold, not given away, given away. So once they've sold that property, that is when they don't have that majority anymore. And that's when there's a board for the corporation. So each one of those deeds votes gets their rightful dues in that corporation. So if a corporation wants to limit it, they have to limit those restrictions in the governing documents. They have to say no owner can own more than 10%, 20%, 50%. If they don't want one person buying the majority of the corporation, then they should limit that in the governing documents. If they don't limit that, then that person can buy as many deeds as they want, and they deserve the votes that go along with every one of those deeds. You have to stop looking at whose title is on the deeds and look at the legal parcels and lot numbers, and make sure that they're part of that corporation, because there's a marking on a lot of states where they mark it as part of a PUD or an association. So if it's part of that and it is allowed to subdivide, every lot counts. So every deed, every title counts. You have to understand the corporate laws. You can't manipulate those corporate laws into because you don't feel that majority owner should get all the majority votes. There's a lot of governing documents that allow a right of action or a majority vote of the majority owners. So without a vote or without a meeting, they can come in and just do things that they want to see done for the corporation because they have that majority. Unfortunately, that there is no corporate that would limit that corporate owner's rights. So we have to remember that you're buying into a corporation. You're not buying property that is free of, these covenants. And that's another reason why the government should protect our property rights, because you don't want a dictatorship. You don't want, is corporate law have the right to, violate our constitutional rights as a owner, because you are allowing that corporation that if somebody buys the majority of it, now that property is under a dictatorship because there's only one owner's vote that really matters. So how do our property rights stay individual property rights when we're allowing for a dictator to a majority ruler to own the property that we have purchased into, thinking that it was going to be under a majority, as in the owners, each owner. So you have to understand that it's not per owner for, the corporate or the property, it's per owner for the corporation, which is decided by the deeds. So really check your governing documents when you go to buy any of these corporations and understand what majority means for it. So every corporation usually counts every deed equals one membership, one vote. So remember that, and remember that in these corporations, majority rules, Robert's rules. So check for that, check for the limitations of ownerships, and suggest that that's put in the governing documents to the board. Bring it up in your board meetings. Is there a limit on how many people who can buy into these? Because that's how these investors are buying the properties. So you allow for this in the corporate law, but these investors understand that. So they know that if they buy a majority of the property, they'll own the whole thing, and they can run everybody out by just controlling that board and controlling everything. That is a dictatorship. I agree that that's a dictatorship, but that is the problem with a corporate law, nonprofit law, corporation laws running our individual property rights. All right, you guys, I'll see you on the next one.